At this point when you're installing, when I'm scripting, I really am not scripting based on who's a quarter. They each have a different skill set. So as of right now, I'm not evaluating any of them. I'm not making a decision on any of them until we get through all the installs and we get to where, okay, the practices are the same. We're scripting it based on who's taking the reps. That's part of it. And we're playing the preseason games and we're going against the Bill. I'll take that back. We are evaluating, but not to that extreme. Nothing's going to be decided over these install practices. We're just getting it in, letting the guys compete.
The Cleveland Browns quarterback battle is officially one of the biggest stories of training camp. But according to offensive coordinator Todd Monken, everyone might be jumping to conclusions way too early. For the last several days, fans, analysts, and media members have been tracking every throw, every completion, every interception, and every highlight from Browns camp. Every time Deshaun Watson throws a pick, social media explodes. Every time Shedeur Sanders completes a deep pass, people start talking about a changing of the guard. But Todd Monken is asking everyone to slow down. And honestly, he may have a point.
See where we're at. That's all positions. And then once we get further along in pads, the full installs are in, we get to compete against other people. That's really when I'm going to be able to see it, because I haven't coached any of the four quarterbacks till now. I have not been around them. I don't have any preconceived notions of who they've been or where they're going. I just take it day to day, we install, and as we get further along, we'll have a better idea.
During his latest media session, Monken addressed the quarterback competition and made it very clear that the Browns are still in the installation phase of training camp. Right now, coaches are focused on teaching the offense, introducing concepts, and getting players comfortable with the system. In other words, these practices aren't necessarily designed to determine who should be the starting quarterback. Monken explained that while the quarterbacks are absolutely being evaluated, the evaluations are not yet happening in the way many fans imagine. The Browns are still installing plays, testing concepts, and working through different situations. What does that mean?
All right, there you go. That's Browns head coach Todd Monken explaining where he is with this quarterback competition. By the way, I think Deshaun Watson just threw another interception at training camp. We're going to get into that because there have been some turnovers aplenty. But
wait, so what was your takeaway from that sound? Are they evaluating the quarterbacks or are they not? He played both sides of the fence. The afternoon show gets after you for flip-flopping. That was a real-time flip-flop.
It means that a bad throw today might not matter nearly as much as whether the quarterback made the correct read. A completion might look great on the stat sheet, but if it wasn't the correct decision within the structure of the offense, coaches may not view it as a win. This is why training camp can sometimes be misleading. Fans see results. Coaches see process. And right now, Monken is focused heavily on the process. According to him, the first 8 practices are primarily dedicated to offensive installation. Once those installs are complete and the Browns move deeper into camp, that's when the evaluations become much more meaningful. That's when the quarterbacks will start operating in situations that look more like real football.
Well, so here's what Todd Monken is saying there. Let's remember we had the Kevin Stefanski translator. Now we're going to introduce to you the Todd Monken translator.
Okay, Monken GBT.
Which, by the way, we don't need to use all that often because you know exactly what he is saying when he says it. Like, he does not speak in code. And I don't think and I understand what you're asking there, Nick, but like, I don't feel like he's speaking in code there.
I agree.
What he is saying is all of us need to cool our jets.
That's when the competition truly begins. And that distinction matters. Because if you've been following Browns camp closely, you've probably heard about the struggles of the offense during the first few practices. There were complaints that the Browns weren't scoring touchdowns. There were complaints that the offense looked boring. There were complaints that explosive plays were nowhere to be found. But context is important. The Browns weren't necessarily trying to create explosive plays during those practices. They were working through specific situations. Third down scenarios. Situational football. Fondamental offensive concept. The vertical passing game wasn't the focus early on.
When it comes to the quarterback evaluation, the quarterback competition, who's in the lead, and the day-to-day charting of everything.
Wait. So I shouldn't be crunching the completion percentage tomorrow is what you're telling me.
Correct.
But it's the first practice in pads. No completion percentage for me is what you're telling me.
What he's saying is the first 8 training camp practices, they're doing offensive install. You know, there was this narrative out there, wow, the Browns haven't scored any touchdowns. And then yesterday, everyone was making the jokes of, oh, hey, what do you know? The Browns scored a touchdown. It's the first touchdown of camp.
The goal was installation. Then came the deeper throws. Then came red zone work. Then came some of the highlights that got fans excited. One of the biggest moments involved rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders connecting with Denzel Boston on a deep throw that immediately started generating buzz around camp. It wasn't perfect. The ball reportedly had a little wobble, but got there. It resulted in a completion. And suddenly everyone started talking because there is one quarterback generating more discussion than anyone else. Deshaun Watson. The veteran quarterback continues to be under a microscope, and every interception he throws becomes a major story. Part of that is understandable.
In fairness, yes, I get it. There were no explosive plays. The first 3 practices offensively were boring. I'm not going to lie. They were boring. It was like watching Eric Mangini practices offensively.
That's not good.
Okay? But I have to be fair. They weren't working on that. They were working on some third down situations. They were working on other situations. They weren't working on the explosive plays.
Watson's Browns tenure has been filled with inconsistency, injuries, and unmet expectations. Fans have spent multiple off seasons hearing explanations for training camp interceptions. They've heard coaches discuss context. They've heard discussions about timing, chemistry, and installation periods. So when Watson throws another interception in practice, many fans immediately think they've seen this movie before. And that's where the skepticism comes from. For some observers, it's no longer enough to explain away mistakes by pointing to installation periods or learning curves. They want results. They want evidence that things are different. They want proof that Watson can return to the level of play that once made him one of the NFL's elite quarterbacks.
Yesterday, they worked on vertical passing game and red zone.
That's that throw Shedeur made to Denzel Boston, man.
Little wobbly, but it got there, and it got there where it needed to be.
It played in my dream last night.
Yes, it did. It's one of my most popular videos that I posted on social media yesterday. That and Quinshawn Judkins absolutely decleating, blowing up Mike Hall Jr.
Buckeye on Buckeye action.
Little Buckeye on Buckeye crime. That's what that was.
On a Saturday.
And until that happens consistently, every interception is going to raise questions. At the same time, coaches continue to emphasize that not all interceptions are created equal. An interception could be caused by a poor throw. It could be caused by a receiver running the wrong route. It could happen because of miscommunication. It could even happen after the quarterback made the correct read but failed in execution. Those details matter. Unfortunately, fans watching from the stands don't always have access to those details. They simply see the ball change possession. That's why internal evaluations often look very different from public reactions. And that brings us to the rest of the quarterback room. While Watson and Shedeur Sanders receive most of the attention, another quarterback has quietly impressed observers through consistency. Dillon Gabriel. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean Gabriel has been the best quarterback in camp. Can they make good decisions every day? Can they operate the offense efficiently every day? That's what coaches are trying to discover. And according to Monken, that process is still unfolding. Another important factor is the physical nature of training camp. The Browns haven't fully reached the stage where padded practices become the primary focus. That matters because football changes dramatically when the pads come on. Offensive linemen can engage more physically. Defensive linemen can showcase their power. The entire evaluation process becomes more realistic. Right now, the Browns' defensive line appears to be dominating portions of camp. Observers have repeatedly mentioned the pressure being generated up front. The defensive front has disrupted passing plays. They've affected timing, and they've made life difficult for the offense. Again, context matters. Without full contact conditions, offensive linemen are limited in what they can do. That naturally creates advantages for defensive players. Still, The performances have been impressive. Several defensive players have stood out, and the energy on that side of the ball has been noticeable. The Browns' defense appears hungry. It appears aggressive, and it appears eager to prove itself. That intensity is creating challenges for every quarterback competing for the starting job. Which brings us back to the biggest question. When should fans start taking the quarterback competition seriously? According to Monken's timeline, the real evaluation period begins after installation is complete. Once the offense is fully installed. Once practices become more competitive. Once game planning concepts begin to appear. Once preseason action arrives. That's when the coaching staff expects to gather the information that truly matters. That's when performances carry more weight. That's when the depth chart begins to take shape. Until then, patience is required. Not because results don't matter, but because the current environment isn't designed to produce definitive answers. It's designed to teach. It's designed to prepare. It's designed to build the foundation for the weeks ahead. So if you're tracking every completion percentage, every interception, every highlight throw, and every social media clip, Todd Monken's message is simple. Slow down. The competition is happening. The evaluations are happening. But the final judgments are still a long way away. The Browns have more installs to complete, more practices to conduct, more padded sessions ahead, and eventually, preseason games that will provide the clearest picture yet. Only then will we start getting real answers about Deshaun Watson. Only then will we know whether Shedeur Sanders is ready to make a serious push. Only then will we discover if another quarterback unexpectedly enters the conversation. For now, the Browns are still building. And according to Todd Monken, that's exactly where the focus should remain. The real quarterback competition hasn't fully arrived yet. But when it does, every throw is going to matter.